Let's start with what spiritual psychosis actually is, because this term gets thrown around without clear definition. Spiritual psychosis occurs when intense spiritual experiences trigger or mimic psychiatric symptoms. We're talking about the intersection where genuine spiritual phenomena can overwhelm the nervous system to the point where functioning becomes impaired.
This episode is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical or psychological advice. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, please contact emergency services or a mental health professional immediately.
Kundalini, that dormant spiritual energy at the base of the spine, when awakened suddenly, can surge through the nervous system like electricity through wiring that wasn't designed to handle that voltage. The symptoms include intense physical sensations, burning, electrical currents, overwhelming heat, altered perception of reality, difficulty distinguishing between visions and physical reality, disrupted speech patterns, jumping between topics, speaking in spiritual abstractions others can't follow, time distortion, minutes feeling like hours, hours collapsing in seconds, grandiose spiritual beliefs, suddenly feeling chosen for cosmic missions, sleep disruption from overwhelming energy activation, complete identity shifts, no longer recognizing yourself. Here's what makes this particularly complex. Some of these experiences can genuinely be spiritual. The challenge is distinguishing between breakthrough and breakdown, between mystical experience and psychological crisis. I'm going to share something deeply personal with you because I believe in leading with vulnerability when discussing topics this sensitive. Several years ago, I experienced what I initially believed was a profound spiritual awakening. I had been practicing intensively, meditation, breath work, energy work, pushing myself towards what I thought might be enlightenment. The experience began beautifully. I felt connected to everything, like I could perceive the interconnectedness of all life. But then something shifted. The energy that had felt divine began to feel overwhelming. My body started experiencing sensations I'd never felt, like being plugged into an electrical outlet that was too powerful for my system. Sleep became impossible. My speech became scattered as I tried to communicate experiences that had no vocabulary in ordinary language. I began hearing what I interpreted as spiritual guidance, but looking back, I realized these were auditory hallucinations. The most terrifying part? I couldn't tell what was real anymore. Was that vision from the divine, or was my brain creating imagery because it was overwhelmed? Were those insights profound spiritual downloads, or was my sense-making completely disrupted? The spiritual community around me was divided. Some said I was having a spiritual emergency, a temporary crisis that would lead to growth. Others were telling me that I might be having a genuine psychotic break. The truth, it was both. I needed people who understood that this wasn't simply a medical condition requiring medication, nor was it purely a spiritual experience requiring only meditation or prayer. It was a complex intersection where intense spiritual phenomena had triggered genuine psychological symptoms. Recovering required months of integration work, learning to ground overwhelming energy, working with therapists who understood spiritual emergencies, and most importantly, accepting that seeking help wasn't a spiritual failure. This experience didn't diminish my faith in spiritual practice. It made me understand how sacred these spaces truly are and how dangerous they can become without proper care. Here's what I need spiritual teachers, facilitators, and communities to understand. We have a responsibility. The techniques we share, the experiences we facilitate, the energies we help people access, these have real effects on real nervous systems. I've watched facilitators push people into experiences they weren't ready for. I've seen spiritual communities dismiss genuine psychological crises as just part of the process. I've witnessed people abandon necessary medical care because someone told them their psychosis was actually enlightenment. This isn't spiritual gatekeeping. It's spiritual responsibility. In healthy spiritual spaces, we should be talking about preparation and gradual development rather than forced openings, integration practices for processing intense experiences, when to seek professional help alongside spiritual guidance, creating safety nets for when mystical experiences become overwhelming, the importance of grounding and embodiment work. We need to honor both the profound reality of spiritual experience and the very real need for psychological stability. These aren't contradictory, they're complementary aspects of holistic well-being. So how do we navigate this territory safely? How do we honor genuine spiritual experience while maintaining psychological well-being? First, understand that spiritual development is meant to be gradual. Traditional spiritual systems developed practices over centuries specifically to avoid overwhelming the nervous system. When we bypass these safeguards, whether through intensive retreats, powerful substances, or forcing energy practices, we risk short-circuiting our own development. If you're experiencing symptoms of spiritual psychosis, please know this: you're not spiritually inferior if you need help. You're not a failure if your awakening came with complications. You're not broken. What you need is integration support that honors both your spiritual journey and your psychological well-being. This might include working with therapists trained in spiritual emergencies, finding spiritual guides who can distinguish between mystical experiences and crisis, grounding practices to help integrate overwhelming experiences. Sometimes, yes, medication to stabilize your nervous system while you integrate. Community support that doesn't force you to choose between spiritual growth and mental health. The goal isn't to shut down spiritual experience, it's to create containers strong enough to hold expanded consciousness safely. This is why I now approach spiritual spaces with what I call fierce love. Love that's willing to set boundaries, ask difficult questions, and prioritize safety alongside transformation. In the spaces I create and protect, we practice what I call conscious spirituality. This means acknowledging that spiritual practices have real psychological effects, screening participants for mental health vulnerabilities, providing integration support before, during, and after intense experiences, having protocols when someone moves into crisis, training facilitators to recognize the difference between spiritual process and psychological emergency. We also normalize seeking professional help. In my community, we have specialists who understand spiritual experience. We have facilitators who can distinguish between spiritual emergency and primary mental illness. We create bridges between worlds instead of forcing people to choose. This isn't about making spirituality safe in the sense of avoiding all challenge or growth. It's about making it conscious, approaching the sacred with both reverence and responsibility. I want to be clear about something important. Spiritual psychosis, when properly supported, can be integrated into a healthy spiritual life. This isn't a permanent condition or a spiritual dead end. Many people who navigate spiritual emergencies report that with proper integration, these experiences ultimately deepened their spiritual understanding. The key is getting appropriate support during the crisis phase. Some of the most grounded, wise teachers I know have been through spiritual emergencies. They've learned to hold both ecstasy and terror, transcendence and embodiment, the mystical and the practical. So guys, that's it for today. If any of what we've explored today has stirred something in you, I'd love to hear from you. So make sure to drop your reflections or any questions down in the comments below. I'll be replying to as many of you as I can. Until next time, trust your path, honor your process, and keep aligning with solitude. Bye.